This month on Focus Black Oklahoma, join us as we hear from some of the candidates in the upcoming Tulsa mayoral election.
Continue our coverage of alleged misconduct at the Tulsa Family Center for Juvenile Justice.
Discuss State Superintendent Ryan Walters' education agenda and its impact across Oklahoma.
Explore the Indigenous Roots, Navigating Indian Country History 2024 Intertribal Symposium.
Discover the 111 Project and how it hopes to address child welfare in Oklahoma.
All this and more on Focus Black Oklahoma.
Focus Black Oklahoma is sponsored by the Black Church Traditions and African American Faith Life program at Phillips Seminary, offering a master's degree in social justice online and in person. Learn more at wherefaithleads.com.
This is Focus Black Oklahoma. I'm Kuma Roberts.
And I'm Jacob Littlebear.
Tulsans will head to the voting booths on August 27th to choose a new mayor in a non-partisan general election. Two-term incumbent Mayor G.T. Bynum has declined to seek re-election to a third term in office. A runoff election, if necessary, is scheduled for November 5th in the event no candidate receives a majority vote in the general election. The names of 7 mayoral hopefuls will appear on the ballot. The list includes business entrepreneurs Casey Bradford, John Jolly, Caleb Hoosier, and Brent Van Norman, who is also an attorney. Current Tulsa County Commissioner for District 2, Karen Keith, current State House Representative for District 72, Monroe Nichols, and perennial candidate Paul Tay. Citizens of Tulsa had several opportunities to meet and interact with this year's candidates. 2 of those events included a free public forum at the University of Tulsa on August 1st, sponsored by the Tulsa World, the Tulsa Press Club, the Tulsa Voter Coalition, and the University of Tulsa, which was moderated by Tulsa World reporters Jenny Graham and Kevin Canfield, and editor-in-chief Jason Collington. And Tulsa Two-Step, a debate at Kane's Ballroom on August 8th, hosted by the Tulsa Regional Chamber, KJRH 2 News Oklahoma, and Non-Doc, a nonprofit online newspaper based in Oklahoma City. Tulsa Two-Step was moderated by Aaron Christie of KJRH 2 News Oklahoma and Trey Savage from Non-Doc. Only qualifying candidates were eligible, meaning according to nondoc.com, quote, their campaigns have either raised at least $50,000 of reported and deposited campaign funds or have achieved at least 10% support demonstrated in a scientific poll unaffiliated with any campaign or political party, end quote. Similar criteria were required for the Tulsa World debate as well, which excluded some candidates from participating in these events. Addressing the city's unhoused population was an important topic at both forums, and here's how Van Norman, Keith, and Nichols addressed the issue at Tulsa Two-Step.
Well, first of all, homelessness is not primarily a housing issue. It is a drug addiction issue, and it is a mental health issue. And while there is a housing component to it, people do have to have shelter or they won't show up for appointments. I was just at God's Shining Light, which is a phenomenal ministry. They just bought a motel with 109 apartments. I would come alongside those. They're going to house a lot of people. They're going to give them counseling, and they're going to bring people off the streets to become productive members of our society.
Go ahead, sorry.
I would be tackling the permitting and inspection issue because our developers working in the affordable housing space cannot get these projects done in a timely manner. It costs too much money and it takes too long. So that's an important piece for us to fix so that we can get more affordable housing out of the ground. I will be working closely with our mental health providers, and I celebrate that our firefighters are working with Family and Children's Services and meeting our homeless where they are on the streets.
Representative Nichols, 30 seconds to you.
Great. Hey, look, I already have a plan that ends homelessness by 2030. I'm excited about it, so I don't have to sit up here and try to make up stuff on the spot. But it starts with the mayor's office becoming by appointing somebody so we become the chief convener and mobilizer of our citywide response to homelessness. It goes to us making sure we are working every day to reduce evictions, building a strong coordinated system of mental health and substance abuse supports, and finally, rapidly increasing our affordable housing stock. We have a plan to do 2,000 units every year to 2028, so we make sure we get on top of this crisis.
One of the many questions posed at the Tulsa World Forum was from the City of Tulsa Youth Council, a program of Tulsa Changemakers of Leadership Tulsa. These teen leaders wanted to know the types of outreach to youth each candidate would make to incorporate their values into the city. First, you will hear from two candidates that were not a part of the non-doc debate, Casey Bradford and then John Jolly.
So I have a 13-year-old little boy who is got his own lingo, his own vernacular. He lives in his own world, and it's drastically different than what I grew up with, running around outside and getting sweaty and waiting for somebody to honk a horn as you knew to come home. But I'm very in tune with what he's after, the Fab Labs that exist inside of the city, going there and gaining education and trying things out, being involved in all the different programs that are existing around the city. And I get to watch this perspective. So what I would like to do is expand upon these things. We have the Fab Lab, but I would like to see more of these resources spread out across the city. So it doesn't take your mom and dad who are, probably working that have to drive you there, and you can get the membership and ride your bicycle again. And I would like to offer this across the board.
Mr. Jolly.
I'm a father of an 11-year-old daughter. Became a father pretty late, so it changes your perspective. We lose a lot of our youth that graduate and move on. They don't come back to Tulsa. I hear it all the time. They go off to different colleges. They don't come back. So if we can incorporate the youth of Tulsa now and know what they want, what they need, why they want to stay here, I think that is beyond brilliant, because if they feel that way and they feel needed, they feel wanted, and they're getting served, they're going to stay in Tulsa. And we need the best youth in Tulsa to stay here for us to grow and improve.
Commissioner Keith.
So I think it's imperative that we engage with our young people in this role, encourage them to make City Hall part of their education. Hearing from our young people, it's critical to know what it is they want, and then how can we execute what they want, because everything that we do today is about them and building what they want for the future. And I can't know that unless I'm communicating with these young people. So I would love to have groups that I can work with, and I'm sure that there are individuals and groups like through Leadership Tulsa that I could call in to help with that. So it is critical we listen to our youth.
Monroe Nichols.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, on my website, and as part of the plan to redefine the mayor's role in education, is the creation of the Office of Children, Youth, and Families. And this is so we never lose focus on young people and what they need and getting their input on the decisions we're making at the city. Young people's voices have to be reflected in the decisions that we make, and I think we have to find inroads to do that, which is the reason why that office is so critically important. And I think we know that's not always the case here now. We're not always listening to young people, and we see that in a variety of ways right now. And so I think it's critically important and that we build structures at the city, not that you got to have the mayor's cell phone number to get in touch with the mayor, but there's ways that youth can inform the city on every decision that we make. And so I'm excited about that, and that's been part of our plan in education since we released it, because I think it's so critically important. They're going to inherit this community. We got to make sure this is a community that is worthy of the young people who live in it.
Mr. Van Norman.
Well, kids today probably wouldn't believe that I was young once, but believe it or not, I was. And one of the best experiences I had in high school was being part of junior achievement. And what you do in junior achievement is you actually start a business, and the kids in the form a company, and they elect officers, and they decide what product or service they're going to provide, and it gives them an opportunity to be very creative and to assume responsibility and learn what it's like. You actually get shares of stock in the company. And so I think having tools like that where we can allow our young folks to fit into those and give them an opportunity to be creative and express themselves and do something that actually is going to give them understanding of what life might be like later and give them a path to do that, and they can use an experience like junior achievement. For me, I got a summer job because of junior achievement. I was loading freight on a truck, but it was still a great opportunity, and I know we can do that.
Savage, at the non-doc debate, presented a very specific question to the candidates regarding North Tulsa, where the largest concentration of African American citizens reside. First, we hear from Representative Nichols, then Van Norman, Then Commissioner Keith.
We're going to dive a little bit more in policy. Representative, I want you to describe your understanding of North Tulsa real estate development, north of Interstate 244, let's say. Land records show frequent real estate activity in North Tulsa for a community that has experienced decades of inadequate resource development. But as big projects have filled in the downtown area here, just south of I-244, that prosperity has mostly trickled north only in terms of land speculation. As a result, many people feel like North Tulsa is getting shortchanged while housing, offices, restaurants, and retail boom just a mile or two away. So describe North Tulsa's situation and tell us something you will do to address the vast inequalities and inequities separated by I-244.
Yeah, great question. And I've now for the last 8 years in part represented portions of North Tulsa, and so this is something that is near and dear to me. And I remember when I was knocking doors in 2016, I would go and I would knock around the neighborhood, and I would notice there were some really nice, maybe kind of small houses next to some blighted properties. These properties where the titles were unclear and it was not clear about what we could do about it. You go and you call, we don't know how to do anything about it. And so in the legislature, there are a couple things that I got busy doing. First, I passed a bill to expand the affordable housing tax credit. Before I got elected, if you were in Tulsa and a developer, you were not eligible for the tax credit at that point. Secondly, we've worked every year, I've got it out of the House every single year, can't get it out, we haven't got it out of the Senate, a bill that would give the city new tools in rapidly taking care of and cleaning the titles on those blighted properties. My plan for North Tulsa is to make sure we get that done. We start to take control of these neighborhoods to revitalize them, and we make what was once a blighted property into the cornerstone of revitalized neighborhood, allowing us to meet our affordable housing needs, but also to close the economic gap. Most folks hold their wealth in a property, and we're gonna make sure that we level the playing field should I get elected mayor.
Well, I have been up to North Tulsa many times. I held a town hall up there at Timothy Baptist Church in which we brought community leaders in, and I listened to them. And I asked them this question. I said, you can have a seat at my table anytime you want, but what I want is a seat at your table. I want to listen to you. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear the ideas you have. North Tulsa has been the dumping ground of projects that are not wanted anywhere else, and that has to stop. It's simply unacceptable. But what we can do, there are great opportunities up there. There are things called TIF districts. There's some already in existence, but I'm for expanding those TIF districts. And real quickly, what a TIF does for you, let's say you have a property that's it's run down a bit, maybe it's worth $50,000. You need a $50,000 loan. You get a $50,000 loan, that property is now worth $100,000. You pay off that loan by paying your taxes because your taxes have now increased to $100,000 to a property at $100,000. That pays off the bond, and you end up with a property worth $100,000. Ultimately, the city ends up with more revenue coming in, and so I would support expanding the TIF district program, and I think that'll bring some real economic development to Tulsa North.
There are any number of issues, some that I consider low-hanging fruit, and that is all of the dogs running wild in the streets where people are afraid to walk their neighborhoods. We have to address that. We have a lot of lights out in North Tulsa. Again, that's something we can do. It's easy, and everybody complains about that. And we need to get additional workforce. We're 130 police officers short, and we want to make sure that every single neighborhood has the coverage they need. But there is, amazing things on the horizon. For instance, the Kirkpatrick Heights plan is out there, and I can't wait to see that come to fruition. It's going to be a game changer. The Black Wall Street condos, the Comanche Park apartments are coming out of the ground, and these are going to be transformative for that area, and we all know what that looked like before. And I know of a developer who's been working in the Crutchfield area and taking house by house. He is transforming that, and we can help him do more with what he has already done by making it easier for him to get through the permitting and inspections process at our city and opening a remote site for permitting. And I plan to do those things.
Please visit the Tulsa County Election Board website at tulsacounty.org/election board to learn where you can cast your vote.
One of the most controversial issues that local candidates have been weighing on is the federal investigation surrounding allegations of physical and sexual abuse at the Tulsa County Juvenile Detention Facility. A focused Black Oklahoma investigation looks into a potential conflict of interest regarding an Oklahoma City-based company hired by Karen Keith's mayoral campaign with ties to the State Office of Juvenile Affairs. Among the issues being debated on the Tulsa mayoral campaign trail are the allegations against staff of the Tulsa County Family Center for Juvenile Justice, or FCJJ. One of the candidates for mayor of Tulsa, Karen Keith, has served as one of 3 Tulsa County commissioners since 2008. Keith has touted the building of the FCJJ, which opened in 2019 in downtown Tulsa, as one of her great achievements as commissioner. Here's Karen Keith at the Mayoral Forum at the University of Tulsa on August 1st.
I am the only candidate sitting up here who has had experience with both the city and the county, and I have brought millions of dollars to this community. You all know that I've done work on the levees. I have worked to create a new family justice center for us. And I love this city, and I feel like we built a fantastic facility, and I'm very proud of it.
And again at the mayoral debate at Kane's Ballroom on August 8th, where she talks about the facility and the Office of Juvenile Affairs, or OJA.
First of all, I am proud it is a world-class facility. But I think you should also know that we found out about this at the same time that you did, and I am appalled and heartbroken at what is going on there, because nobody has worked harder to do right by our young people in this community. And there is a lot of misinformation about what happened and what is happening in that facility. So here are some facts I want to share with you. For 50 years, the district judges have run our facility under the supervision of another state agency, the OJA. And we found out about those latest allegations at the same time that you did. And I will say this, we got a letter from the judge saying, I don't want to do this anymore. We have taken it over, and it's not something we want to do forever, but we have to do what is in the best interests of the children. OJA is in there with us every day. And just yesterday, we got a report that they are very pleased with how things are going, and one of them even said, hey, Mr. Parker's kind of cool. So that some of the kids said that. So it's a big job. There's a lot of work to do, but we are committed to doing right by these kids. OJA has been in there just about every single day, and we are getting good reports. We're moving the needle, and I look forward to getting an equilibrium back in this facility and hopefully turning it back over to the district judges and a judge who will want to do the job.
Judge Kevin Gray, who had been responsible for running the FCJJ, circulated a letter of resignation on the evening of July 11th at the same time as a town hall meeting at the Greenwood Cultural Center, hosted by the nonprofit organization Oklahoma Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. For more on this story, listen to our coverage in last month's show. Following Judge Gray's resignation, the county commissioners voted to assume control of the facility and hire Oklahoma Department of Corrections Director David Parker. While the job description posted by Tulsa County for the position of FCJJ Director clearly states that the person for this position must have experience working in a juvenile facility, Parker's resume shows no such experience. Adding to the complication of these changes is the question of just who is accountable, following repeated allegations regarding the abuse of children in the facility by FCJJ staff. KJRH reporter Aaron Christie investigated this bureaucratic entanglement and came away with more questions than answers. We hear Christie and then Oklahoma Appleseed Executive Director Colleen McCarty.
Now to the problems ongoing at the Juvenile Detention Center. While 2 former employees of the Tulsa County Family Center for Juvenile Justice are now charged with sex crimes against minors, and a civil lawsuit alleges a web of corruption at the facility, county officials are remaining silent. And I found out the entire design makes it easy to pass the buck. If you ask who is in charge of the FCJJ, don't expect a simple answer.
There's no one really solely responsible for what goes on there.
So the funding is supervised by the Tulsa County Juvenile Trust Authority, but it has no authority over the operations. And then some money and other legal stuff is also the responsibility of county commissioners. The Tulsa County Juvenile Chief Judge is in charge of the hiring and firing, but only of one person, the facility's director. And then there's a state agency, the Office of Juvenile Affairs. It inspects and licenses the facility. Now, currently, the district attorney's office is handling open records requests about the facility, and that's the same office prosecuting 2 of the employees.
Can you explain to me how that's not a conflict of interest for the district attorney to be prosecuting these cases?
Just this year, the FCJJ got a permanent license. The OJA attorney did not recommend it. Documents state he sent a letter to 13 county officials urging probation. The OJA apparently went against their own attorney's advice.
And there's no real explanation about that decision in the records that we got.
Focus Black Oklahoma investigators have uncovered an additional potential conflict of interest between Karen Keith's campaign and the board of directors of the OJA. Candidates for public office in Tulsa, that's the mayor, the city auditor, and 9 city councilors, are required to file campaign contribution reports on a quarterly basis to the Tulsa City Clerk's office at City Hall. The most recent campaign contribution report received by the Tulsa City Clerk's office for the second quarter of 2024 reveals a payment to James Martin Company, a political consulting firm based in Oklahoma City, dated May 23rd, in the amount of $10,805.90. The report shows that up until June 30th, James Martin Company received $54,803.49. The founder and CEO of James Martin Company is Jenna Worthen, who also serves on the board of the Oklahoma Office of Juvenile Affairs.
I think, first of all, getting the right people at the table to figure out how we make this better. That should have never happened. And I can't imagine that it's gone on this long. It's taken all these lawsuits and so forth to bring it to light. So shame on somebody for not doing something. And when you make a mistake, own it. You know, these are young kids. And regardless of why they're in there, this should never happen to them.
That was Maria Barnes. She's running for the District 2 County Commission seat, which was vacated by Keith. Barnes continues.
Why run for the job if you're not willing to get out there and help? So the folks at the top should be the ones that are liable. That's just it. You can't have somebody at the top who continues to sweep it under the rug.
Sarah Gray is also running to fill the District 2 seat vacated by Keith.
We've been calling for months now for the Attorney General's office to take over and conduct an investigation of this facility.
Gray has been vocal about the issues at FCJJ.
We've been calling for months for the facility to be shut down pending the results of that investigation. Neither of those things have happened. And now we know, because of public records, Karen Keith's campaign filed their ethics filing, which shows how did you raise your money, from who did you raise your money, and what did you spend it on. So now we know that Karen has directly paid a sitting board member of the Oklahoma Juvenile Authority nearly $55,000. And that board member is married to the chief of staff of the Attorney General of Oklahoma. So you can like Karen Keith, you can respect her, you can be grateful for her nearly 2 decades of public service as a county commissioner, but that does not mean that you have to turn a blind eye when it becomes clear that she is choosing her political aspirations over the safety of children. I don't know what, if any, role her fundraiser Jenna Worthen may be playing outside of both sitting on the OJA and being a paid staff member of Karen's campaign. But what I do know is that OJA is truly the only authority that can hold the Board of County Commissioners accountable, and they're the only folks who can truly shut down this facility, and they're not doing it. And it's clear, based on public records, that this sitting board member has a financial and political interest in Karen Keith's success in her mayoral campaign. This just goes to show you, someone may have all of the connections and all of the relationships in the world, but if they're not willing to use them for the community, then they are useless, because those are for them and their political aspirations and for their network and for their net worth. If you're not using those relationships for the people who you serve or the people in the community, then why should we care? Why should that be a value proposition to the voters? Because you haven't used them for us yet. So, that's great. I'm glad that, you've been elevated to this position of leadership for nearly 20 years, and you've been able to build such a wide net of relationships. But what good is that doing us right now? I have no trust left. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I am not going to turn a blind eye. I'm not going to believe everything that you say. I'm going to believe what you do. That's going to weigh a lot more heavily in my mind. Show me what you're going to do. I don't want just all the words. We get all the words and all the promises and all the nice thoughts. But people will show you who they are. And I think that she is. And it's just a matter of us listening and being able to convey that with enough people that we can hopefully get some justice for the kids, and also not reward her for prioritizing her political aspirations over the safety of detained children.
Keith did not respond to our request for an interview. Melissa Myers and Representative Lonnie Sims, who are also running to fill the seat vacated by Keith, also did not respond to our interview request. Focus Black Oklahoma has also reached out to James Martin Company and the Oklahoma Ethics Commission, who have not responded as of the filing of this story. For now, Tulsa County has ultimate authority over the juvenile justice facility and hired David Parker to run its day-to-day operation. Oklahoma Appleseed reported that Mr. Parker acknowledges he has no previous experience managing a juvenile facility. The organization also reported that Commissioner Keith, quote, expressed the need to change the management structure before July 31st or the facility would lose its license, end quote. The FCJJ continues to operate today in a status of technically being in good standing with the OJA while under an ongoing federal investigation.
With Oklahoma ranking in the bottom 10 states for education and child well-being, teachers, administrators, and elected officials responsible for affecting those outcomes are under increasing levels of scrutiny. At the center of it all is State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Here's Shonda Little with details.
While Oklahoma public schools are returning to the classroom, Oklahoma State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Ryan Walters, continues to garner state and national headlines as he pursues his fight against what he calls the woke agenda. Because of that, news broke on August 13th that 17 Oklahoma State House Republicans signed and circulated a petition to begin the process for the impeachment of Walters. Walters called a special meeting at the Oklahoma State Board of Education on Wednesday, July 31st at 9:30 a.m. The state superintendent had 3 agenda items to discuss in the special meeting, all bellwether issues in a contentious presidential election year. The Trump assassination attempt and teacher expectations, teaching the standards using historical documents like the Bible and rogue administrators, and illegal immigration and the burden on schools. Several citizens, some supporters of Walters and others vocal critics, arrived hours early to get a seat inside the meeting. However, voters and parents were not the only people attending the meeting to find answers. Representative Mary Bourne and Representative Jacob Rosecrans, both Norman Democrats, were in attendance. They were joined by Representative Mike Osborne, an Edmond Republican. Because all 3 representatives currently sit on a House committee or subcommittee on education, all 3 believed they were legally entitled to sit in on the closed-door executive session. Earlier in July, Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond's office notified the Oklahoma Board of Education and Walters via a letter that they could not legally prohibit a legislator who sits on an education committee or subcommittee from attending executive sessions. This came after Bourne had attempted to attend an executive session on June 26th. Yet, at the July 31st special meeting, Walters once again did not allow entry to Bourne. Her 2 fellow legislators were also not allowed to sit in on the executive session during the July 31st special meeting. Despite Oklahoma recently being ranked as 49th in the country for education by the Annie E. Casey's Foundation's Kids Count annual report, Walters' agenda may be gaining him support among the national Republican base. However, some public school superintendents, fellow Republicans, and a former Teacher of the Year are confused by the move to bring hot-button issues to the forefront of the Oklahoma Department of Education.
I'm Gina Nelson. I am the 2020 Oklahoma Teacher of the Year, and I am the former Democratic candidate for state superintendent. I ran for office in 2022. I am very concerned about the state of public education in Oklahoma. We are in a state of crisis, and that's no hyperbole at all. We have a lot of teachers that are not returning back to their classrooms. We even have schools that don't have administration right now. We have federal funding that is being basically withheld. They're not receiving their federal funding yet. Teachers are worried, families are worried. And then you add this layer of trying to add Christian nationalism into our public schools. And so right now, the state of public education is very concerning. He's creating a hostile work environment for everyone in the state because he is asking out-of-state provocateurs to follow our teachers, to look through their Instagrams, all of their social media, to find things that he can play a gotcha game so he can take away their certificates. And last but not least, it is the fact that he's not focused on education, but on elevating himself into the next position. And that hurts our kids in Oklahoma, that hurts our families, and that hurts our community. I believe that he put that on the agenda for nothing more than to catch the attention of the former president. We know that he is jockeying for a higher position, whether that is going to be the Secretary of Education if the former President Trump happens to win in November, or he is also, planning to possibly run for governor in 2026, and so trying to elevate his status in the GOP and get in favor with those who have those MAGA leanings. That's very important to him.
Walters is receiving pushback from multiple school districts on his new mandate requiring Bibles to be present in all 5th to 12th grade public classrooms. Elk City is one of those school districts. Their superintendent says the Bible and many other documents have long been available to both students and staff.
My name is Mike Sparks. I am the superintendent of Elk City Public Schools. I am getting ready to start my 4th year at Elk City. It will be my 9th year overall as a superintendent and 31st year overall in public education as a teacher and or administrator. Every child that has a laptop, Chromebook, has access to the Bible, the 10 Commandments, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. They have all of that, and so do the teachers. But I do not believe that public tax dollars can be spent on that.
Representative Nick Archer, a Republican who represents House District 55, believes this should be left to individual households. Archer, an Elk City Republican, was among the lawmakers calling for Walters to be removed from office.
We're now asking the very teachers we've criticized as woke to teach the Bible. And I just believe my family and the constituents of House District 55 would prefer that instruction come from within their own homes.
Elk City Superintendent Sparks is concerned that involving teachers, administrators, and public schools in the debate on undocumented immigrants will distract from schoolroom instruction.
With regards to immigration status, I just don't believe that should be the job of the teachers or administrators. I think that there are government officials, that's their position. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And I believe that every class I ever took to become a teacher, to get my certification, it was very clear that my job was to educate children.
However, Sparks understands why Walters felt a need to address social media posts from public educators about the assassination attempt on former President Trump.
I believe as public figures, whether that be as a superintendent or teachers or whatever, with so many of our students that do struggle with social media, and the fact that some people took to social media after the assassination attempt and did put things out there that shouldn't be there, regardless of the candidate or whatever. Maybe he was trying to send a strong message to educators that we do have to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
According to the special board meeting's agenda, Walters scheduled the executive session to discuss possibly revoking the teaching licenses for 4 Oklahoma educators. Walters has said publicly that this was needed because of the social media activity of some Oklahoma educators following the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Walters wrote on X, quote, "We will not allow teachers to cheer on violence against @real Donald Trump. It will not be tolerated, ever. #MAGA, end quote. Superintendent Walters was asked for comment by cell phone and email, but did not offer a statement to focus Black Oklahoma. However, he has spoken publicly about the assassination attempt on Trump in multiple media appearances. It's unclear how he believes these plans to address teachers' comments on social media about former President Trump's assassination attempt, immigration statuses of families living in Oklahoma, or a new Bible mandate will improve education outcomes in Oklahoma. Regardless of the 3 agenda subjects for the special meeting, some in the Oklahoma legislature and the Attorney General's office are concerned the divisive actions may also be breaking Oklahoma's laws. Phil Bacharach, a spokesperson for Attorney General Drummond, said in regards to not allowing the 3 lawmakers into the executive session, quote, "We are very concerned by what appeared to be a willful violation of the Open Meeting Act. Our office will look further into the matter and take appropriate actions," end quote. And while the petition for Walters' impeachment has the support of at least 17 House Republicans and all the House Democrats, Speaker of the House Charles McCall said late on August 13th that he would not consider it for a vote until at least 51 House Republicans had joined the effort. For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Shonda Little in Cheyenne.
At the Indigenous Roots Symposium, representatives from various tribes united to share resources and foster education, highlighting the strength of intertribal collaboration. The event showcased a commitment to preserving Native American history and culture, with discussions centered on the importance of navigating the complexities of tribal identity and heritage. Francia Allen has the story.
On July 12th of this year, the first Intertribal Symposium was held at the Osage Casino in Tulsa. Its theme, Indigenous Roots, Navigating Indian Country History. The two-day event was hosted by the Verified News Network and Osage News. Members from multiple tribes were in attendance, as well as the general public. There were several panels, breakout sessions, and presentations that focused on the importance of learning and sharing Indigenous history, accessing resources, and telling their own stories. Dr. Russell Cobb, author and professor at the University of Alberta, was one of the speakers. His presentation, All Crooks at Tulsa, Reconsidering the Foundations of the Oil Capital of the World, focused on historical stories of the Muskogee Creeks and Creek freedmen. These tribal citizens were given land allotments and then were preyed upon by prominent white oil men in Tulsa, seeking to kill, steal, and get richer off of the oil deposits under their land. Dr. Cobb told the story of a Muskogee boy named Tommy Atkins, who was allotted land in Creek County and whose mysterious story set off decades of court cases and investigations into his true existence. Here are excerpts from Dr. Cobb's talk, as well as his upcoming book, Ghosts of Crook County, An Oil Fortune, A Phantom Child, and the Fight for Indigenous Land, due out this October.
And just when I thought I had figured it all out, a Muskogee freedman, a descendant of formerly enslaved people in the tribe named Henry Carter, came forward to say that he, in fact, was Tommy Atkins, and he was alive and well. Now, Charles Page, we must note, was only one of many legendary Oklahoma oilmen named in a massive investigation led by the federal government, including the Muskogee Nation National Attorney. Others included Thomas Gilcrease, C.J. Reitzman, H.U. Bartlett. Charles Page had simply been the savviest and the most persistent of the grafters. The Muskogee Nation, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Department of Justice, they all countered that Tommy Atkins was a lie, I quote, lie, pure and simple, the product of greedy oilmen's imaginations. This investigation eventually caught the ear of President Woodrow Wilson, who in 1915 was briefed on the matter. He signed off on an FBI investigation, and then there was a conspiracy to kidnap the Muskogee principal chief, Modi Tiger at the time. There was a lawsuit that accused none other than Charles Page, Mr. Daddy Page, of murder. There are many questions. What happened to Minnie Atkins? Was Tommy simply a fiction? After a century of silence, there is much work to be done. Tulsa, the oil capital of the world, can lay claim to transforming the nation's energy industry in the early 20th century. The fortunes made here in the Osage Nation, in Glenpool, Cushing, Drumright, Barnesville, they transformed, they remade the way Americans lived and moved. They ushered in a period of prosperity unknown in the history of the world. But that is not the whole story. Behind the Magic City lies a series of forgotten crimes, almost perfectly executed.
The Tulsa City County Library has been in partnership with the tribal community for the past 20 years and maintains a large database of Native American resources. Now that the library has been granted access to the Indigenous Peoples of North America Archive Part 2 Indian Rights Association, the Indigenous community has more resources at their disposal. Ellen Cummings, the Chief Operating Officer of the TCCL, spoke with Focus Black Oklahoma shortly after receiving a large donation for the Verified News Network.
So our American Indian Resource Center is housed at our Zero Regional Library. Our genealogy section is housed at our non-partisan regional library. So, but we all work together. We, connect. So it kind of depends on where you're headed with your research. But then also the research center, which is housed at Central Library. But we're all networked. Basically, we have 24 libraries, 4 of which are regionals. And at each regional, we have a special resource center. So at Hardesty, we have the Genealogy Resource Center. At Rudisill, we have the African American Resource Center. At Martin, we have the Hispanic Resource Center.
The Oklahoma Historical Society provided vital information about the Dawes rolls, as well as how Native American descendants can use them as a resource to conduct genealogy research. Here is what Veronica Redding shared about their process.
When you're doing genealogy, looking for your ancestors, American Indian, or just generally, we use pedigree charts a lot. We have these available for download on our website. They're in a lot of different genealogy places. Most tribes are going to have you fill one of these out if you're looking to actually enroll with them. 1900 and 1910 specifically is where we generally focus when we're trying to find somebody's family to see if they might be American Indian. Here in Oklahoma, those 2 census years, they had an Indian population schedule. And it listed, if they were tribal, what nation they were living in, stuff like that. And I'll show you an example coming up. So they had to be living here in 1900 in order to be put on any rolls. Generally, it'll show you what nation that they were living in. They had to be living here in 1900 in order to be put on any rolls. Generally, it'll show you what nation that they were living in. So if it was Cherokee Nation or Choctaw Nation, or even Comanche Nation or something like that on the 1900 U.S. federal census, it would show that.
If you are interested in contacting the Oklahoma Historical Society, you can visit their website at www.okhistory.org. The Tulsa City County Library website can also guide you in accessing information on Native American stories at www.tulsalibrary.org. If you desire to learn more about the Verified News Network, please visit their website at verifiednews.network. And Osage News can be accessed at osagenews.org. For Focus Black Oklahoma, I'm Francia Allen in Tulsa.
Thanks for joining us on Focus Black Oklahoma.
Would you like to pitch a story to FBO?
Or work with us as a correspondent?
Please email us at contact@focusblackoklahoma.com.
Or call 918-807-3886. A collaborative initiative known as the 111 Project is leveraging technology and community engagement to address the child welfare crisis. By partnering with over 700 churches and utilizing the Care Portal platform, the project aims to connect families in need with vital resources, ensuring that every child has the support of a family. Zakira Muhammad shares details in part 2 of her 3-part series on the foster care system.
Prior to the use of technology, the foster care and adoption processes were predominantly word of mouth due to the lack of systematic data on informal communication channels. The mid-2010s surge in the use of technology helped expand reach far beyond local communities thanks to the World Wide Web. The 111 Project currently serves 65 counties, 700 churches, and over 33,000 children in Oklahoma. Chris Campbell, the executive director in Tulsa, emphasizes the project's collaboration with churches statewide, aiming to support communities in ending the child welfare crisis and ensuring every child has a family. Campbell shares more.
So 111 Project, we work with churches all across the state of Oklahoma to help the faith community and even beyond the faith community get engaged to ending the child welfare crisis. And so we want to see children, all children, have the support of a family. And so we mobilize the local church so that every child has family. Two of the primary things that we focus on is helping the community recruit and support foster families. We know that we need enough foster families in every community. And then secondly, we really work to help the community support child welfare agency partners. And we primarily use the Care Portal to do that because we have a lot of families that could maybe not even ever have their children enter the foster care system if those families had some support in the midst of kind of their challenges and crisis. And so we use our Care Portal platform to be able to help facilitate a lot of that preventative work, but it also is used to support foster families. And it's also used to even support youth that have aged out of the foster care system as well.
Adrian Lewis, the founder and president of Care Portal, based in Kansas City, recalled the vision he received in 2011 initiating a project in Kansas City to support foster and adoptive families with basic necessities.
Would you receive an email, community, to know about that need? And if you could help, would you help? And you know what? That simple vision caught on like wildfire. And in 2015, we launched Care Portal with that idea in mind. And since then, we have seen nearly 300,000 children seen and served by local churches and communities who have helped thousands and thousands of kids not go in the foster care system and get home faster.
Care Portal utilizes data technology to keep track of requests and responses with improved services through the digital web. Here's Lewis.
The way we use data now is actually so advanced. Compared to most nonprofits, the data that we have is ridiculous. Like, we know everything that's going on. We know every request that's being submitted by every different kind of agency. We know everyone who's responding to it. And we can look at the data of how requests are coming in and what they're for and who's responding. And we can analyze how we can improve those things so that the response rates go up. And we can analyze the effectiveness of, when a request is being submitted to keep a child out of foster care. Is it really happening? So we have like 140,000 five-star reviews that we look at and learn from. And we have data from all the caseworkers submitting requests. And we know that over 90% of the time, when a request is submitted to help keep a child out of foster care, the community stepping up to meet that need actually helps keep that child out of foster care. So we use data in its simplest form. We use it to both prove and improve the services that we provide.
Campbell mentioned a story that features Ariel Moore, the current senior director of the Center for Social Innovation at Oklahoma State University, whose journey illustrates the common complexities faced by families involved in child welfare. Her narrative shines light on the widespread issues of addiction, mental health, poverty, and domestic violence that can affect anyone, emphasizing the need for understanding and support.
I met Ariel in an agency meeting. We were working to recruit some additional agencies to make requests on Care Portal. And in the middle of that meeting, she looked across the room and she goes, you guys help me. And I said, Ariel, I'm sorry. I don't know any of the story. Can you tell me more? And she began to recount her story. And she's now shared with a lot of our community. Because I think there's a perception in our mind of somebody that has child welfare involvement. And when you meet families that have child welfare involvement, you realize there's common things that all of us, probably every person in the world, have maybe in their lives. And that's somebody who struggled with addiction, somebody that struggled with mental health, somebody that struggled with poverty, and even somebody that's maybe had some instances of domestic violence or something in their life. Like, all of us probably have had some exposure to that. In Oklahoma and around the country, what we know of is there's this thing called ACE scores, or adverse childhood experiences. And Oklahoma, unfortunately, we're a top 10 state in adverse childhood experiences. So we know kids have experienced this, adults have experienced this, but sometimes we criminalize people instead of realizing, hey, without support, all of us are pretty close to some of the crisis that's involved here.
As a series of life events can lead to challenging circumstances with diverse experiences, the 111 Project aims to foster empathy and community engagement in addressing the root causes of crisis. In April 2024, Care Portal hosted their first annual conference where they announced what's next in their future. Lewis states,
we went on a limb this year and did our very first conference. We had never done one before. And I'm going to tell you, having 600 leaders from government agencies and from businesses and from churches and nonprofits all in the same room, it was electric. So when we think about the future, our vision, the big idea, is to make care sharing as ubiquitous as ride sharing. Like, we see a day in the future when a church would use Care Portal or something like it to see and serve their neighbor. It'd be so important to them. It'd be just like them having a worship team. That important, And we see social service agencies or government agencies seeing such value in working with the community to serve the most vulnerable, that they would have a care sharing platform just like they have caseworkers. And we see a future where that's happening. And in order for that to happen, the Care Portal platform has to get mainstream. Like, we have to get it to be so simple and intuitive that you feel like you're using Airbnb to book a room, or you feel like you're using Uber to book a car. Like, these very common experiences that people have. We need to have our platform to be that advanced. And I'm proud to say that we're on that path. And later this year, we're going to be able to launch the next release, the 4th generation of Care Portal, to make it so that like any human in the country can see what's going on and really have an opportunity to engage in a meaningful way.
To get involved with Care Portal, Lewis says,
so simple. Go to careportal.org or download the Care Portal app. Either way, if you're a church or a business or a social service agency or a nonprofit, a Rotary Club, a sports team, an individual, doesn't matter. There is room at the table for everyone to participate in this care sharing network that we're building. We're currently in 35 states, and if you're in one of those states, you can plug right in. And if you're in a different state, you might help us get it started where you are.
To learn more about the 111 Project, here's Campbell.
We can be found at 111project.org. And I just give anybody permission to contact us if they've got a question or don't know how to ask it or where to access that question. Just go to our contact page and put in a request, and we'd love to connect you.
This is segment 2 of 3. Next, we'll talk to the Executive Director and Director of Operations at the Muslim Foster Care Association and talk about the role the immigrant community plays when it comes to adoption. We'll also explore the rising costs of childcare and foster care. For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Zakira Muhammad in Tulsa.
Focus Black Oklahoma is produced in partnership with KOSU Radio and Tri-City Collective. Additional support is provided by the Commemoration Fund. Our theme music is by Moffett Music. Focus Black Oklahoma's executive producers are Quraish Ali Lantana and Bracken Clark. Our associate producers are Smriti Iyengar and Jesse Ulrich. Our production intern is Gabby Rucker. You can visit us online at kosu.org or focusblackoklahoma.com and on YouTube at Tri-City Collective. You can follow us on Instagram at FocusBlackOK and on Facebook at facebook.com/FocusBlackOK. You can hear Focus Black Oklahoma on demand for free at kosu.org, the NPR app, npr.org, or wherever you get your podcasts.
KOSU Business Circle memberships are ideal for small businesses looking to support public radio and get a little bit of airtime. To learn how your business can become a member, email development@kosu.org.